Hello and welcome back to Matt Hayes' Tottenham blog and to this evening's Dinamo Zagreb versus Tottenham Europa League match preview. I'm delighted to say I'm joined again by Dave at the Irish Hotspur to go through this one. We go a bit through the team news, somewhat of a predicted 11. Also looking at the bizarre situation involving the Dinamo Zagreb coach who has been sentenced to almost 5 years in prison, and also going through our feelings and our derby hangover, I suppose, as well, following Sunday's defeat and ahead of this game tomorrow. But first of all, David, as always, thank you so much for joining me this evening. How are you getting on?
No problem. I'm absolutely fantastic. I just want to say it to everybody out there watching and to yourself, Matt. Big happy St. Patrick's Day as well. I'm looking forward to this, and I think everything's stacking up in our favour for this game. I know the derby defeat happened, but it is what it is, and we move on.
Absolutely. It's, you know, the most important game is always the next game, and that's what this one is for Spurs facing Zagreb in the Europa League. And I echo your sentiments to everyone watching. A very happy St. Patrick's Day, but let's get down to business here. As Wayne says, as the saying goes, it's a funny old game. And we'll touch a bit on the Zagreb coach further into the stream, but first thing I want to talk about, David, is how Spurs are going to approach this game. You know, Jose, typically in the Europa League this season, and I suppose throughout his entire managerial career, has gone strong. No matter what the situation is, he's started very, very strong teams, and that has carried through the season's Europa League campaign. We've already heard from him that Harry Kane will be playing in this game tomorrow. Given the knock that he's carrying and the concern that was surrounding his fitness going into the derby game on Sunday, are you surprised or in any way concerned that we'll be seeing him maybe from the start tomorrow?
Surprised, no, because it's superhero Kane, isn't it? Really, you know what I mean. He's going to want to play regardless. Should he play? I don't think so, to be honest with you. Look, I do think we have enough to see the tie off. Whether Kane plays or not, I do think we have enough to see one. I think we score one out there, it's game over. To play him when he's carrying a knock is a risk. I thought that was the whole idea of bringing in Vinicius. You know what I mean? To play him when Kane wasn't right. But what I want to say, Matt, is that Vinicius shouldn't really be here. We have no plans for him after the summer. And I was listening to a podcast that Troy Deeney done, and he actually came out and said he wanted to come to Tottenham and it was so close to happening. But for whatever reason, they ended up choosing Vinicius. So I don't get that. Like, if we had someone like Troy Deeney, you'd probably argue he plays tomorrow night. So, look, maybe we could get away with playing Kane for 45 minutes and taking him off. I'm hoping that's the thinking behind it. Playing for the 45, get the job done in the first half, and then take him off and let him rest up. But it's still a massive gamble. With what we have coming up with the cup final, I still think regardless Kane plays or not, we're going to be in Europa League. Top four is still not out of sight yet. Not out of sight yet. Anything can happen in this crazy league. So for me, you know, it's a huge gamble to play him tomorrow when there's still so much to play for. I know after the North London Derby game, it doesn't seem like there is, but there is. There is. So it's a big gamble to risk Kane like that. I would actually probably go with Vinicius, but look, you know, I trust Jose, I trust his decisions, and I trust him to make the right one.
Yeah, and I feel that is just where we need to come from this, is just trust the manager, because he'll know more about Harry Kane's fitness than we can possibly know. And of course, for us, it's concerning seeing him go down in the game last week and potentially pick up a knock and seeing the ice on his knee. We're instantly going to be worried, but Jose will know if that was precautionary, whatever kind of risk there is there in playing him in this game. And like you said, playing for 45 minutes and then maybe take him off. The situation with this game is, given that we won the first leg 2-0 at home, if we get one goal tomorrow, all of a sudden Zagreb need 4. And I think we can confidently say, as inconsistent as our defense has been this season, for a team like that to score 4 against us without reply, I think it is quite far fetched. So I wouldn't be surprised if Harry Kane is there just to go all out in that first half, get a goal, maybe even 2, put the tie to bed, and then take him off and start bringing on the young players. And of course, Dane Scarlett also travelled, so I wouldn't say it's impossible that he could feature in this one tomorrow. We've Spartan 7 game in here. My guys, come on, you Spurs. Will, both Spartan 7 and Will, both channel members, says, lads, got like 3 channels going live at the same time. You don't make it easy for me to support all of you. Well, look, Will, you've tuned into the best channel here, so you're doing a good job so far. Thanks a million. Yassine says, to be honest, I don't know what to expect anymore. When I think we're going to lose, we win, and when I think we'll lose, we win. It's the life of a Spurs fan, isn't it? It's that emotional roller coaster. Will says, would it be safer to bring him on after the first half? What do you think about that, David? Would it be better to have Kane on the bench than maybe bring him on if we need firepower? Or do you think Jose is just being purely looking to get through to that next round of the Europa League and play Kane from minute 1?
Look, I can fully understand where Will is coming from. It is a thought that has crossed my mind today. But thinking, I would rather be in the driving seat rather than I'd rather be proactive rather than be reactive. So I'd rather go out there and try and get the job done in the first half if that's possible, rather than save Kane and bring him on. Because if that does happen and we bring on Kane, there's no better message to send to Dinamo Zagreb that we're nervous when we're bringing Harry Kane off, and to set the tempo for the rest of the players on our field, which we know not the best mentally. So would that be the right thing for this team? I don't think so. But that did cross my mind today.
Yeah, and I think I agree with David. It's better to be proactive rather than reactive. And look, I suppose the scenario that we're in is the fact that we have a player like that to even have this debate with is fantastic. And he's going to be someone who, whether it is from the start or off the bench, will influence this game. And he's the man you'd expect, if needs be, that he will carry us through to the next round. But I do think we will comfortably get through this one. As I said, 1 goal for Spurs, and all of a sudden Zagreb need 4. Aside from him, there's going to be a lot of rotation, I would assume, in that front four, David. And there's a lot of players who are in contention. We've Giovanni Lo Celso traveled with the team today. It's been a long time since we've seen him play. I personally don't think we'll see him from the start because of he had that hamstring injury for so long that picked up a little knock on his back as he was recovering from that. So I think playing him from the first minute would be way too big of a risk. And I think he's purely there to maybe get 5-10 minutes at the end of the game if we are comfortably through. There's also Lucas Moura, as you mentioned, who was in the press conference, so will probably be playing in this game. And aside from that, who plays in the middle? What players are available there? If you had to pick your front 3 behind Harry Kane right now, who would you go for?
Well, like you said, look, Lucas is 100% in there. For me, he goes on. See, for me, I put Dele Alli in the middle. The reason why I say Dele Alli is because, look, we could play Lamela for this game basis to try and get over the line, but Dele Alli will be playing against Villa. With no Son, no Lamela available through suspension, and Son through injury. It's without a shadow of doubt that he's going to come in. It's between him and Bergwijn, but personally, I think Dele Alli at the minute is ahead of Bergwijn. So I'm predicting Ali comes in. So for me, you put him out there against Zagreb, you give him the minutes he needs. And then after that, then you play Lucas one side. And I do think... See, for me, I actually rest Bale, Matty. I do. I think, look, he looked a bit tired against Arsenal. It wasn't his best of games. I think you rest him for the Villa game because I do think it's job done. No, Mourinho, he probably will play Bale, but I suppose there probably is room for Lamela, actually, if you play him out on one of the wings. There's probably room for him if you play him out on the right, Lucas out on the left, and Dele Alli in the middle. In terms of centre midfield, Matty, of course, look, Ndombele is looking very tired as well. He looked very tired against Arsenal. For me, he's also going to need a rest. So that's going to be a very interesting selection in there.
Yeah, and just a quick question here from Willie says, if you start him and he scores in the 10th minute, you take him off right away. Harry Kane, no, I'd say at least give it half time. You don't you want to win the game, but you don't want to disrespect your opposition. I think that's something Jose is very, very keen on. And Sue Smith, good to see you in the live chat here as well. On the point of Eric Lamela, I think he starts this game purely because we're not risking him. He's not going to play another game for Spurs until early on in April, with of course being suspended for Villa, and then the international break that comes after that. So I think there's no real risk for playing Lamela, and I think he's a player that you want in a game like this. He gets stuck in, and look, I know Will have a few words to say if we do talk about Lamela's quality, but one thing you can't criticise is his vigour and his guile and the way he will get stuck into challenges. And look, we saw last Thursday that Zagreb are going to be really physical with us. Lamela is someone who can take that, and he can give as good as he gets in that regard. So I do think we will see him play. Dele Alli as well, I think, again, in the past has kind of been more of a player that would fit that ilk, but has kind of become a bit more gone back into a shell a bit, I suppose. He's not that aggressive, tenacious kind of player, but still potentially could be that kind of man who could take this game by the scruff of the neck and bring the game to Zagreb if needs be. I agree with you on resting Gareth Bale. I think I was surprised when he played the 3 games in a week there, leading up to that Arsenal game, and I think maybe we saw the effect of that in that game in the North London derby. A lot of people, I suppose, criticising him for his failures to track back into not helping Matt Doherty back there, but maybe he just didn't have the legs to do it, given it's been so long since he's played this volume of football. Lucas Moura, he's just been fantastic lately. I'll read a few quotes from Jose Mourinho in a second from his press conference today. Will says, start Lamela, let him break a leg or two in this one, no problems here. Well, look, if Will is agreeing that Lamela should start, I think it's written in the stars then that will happen. On the point of Giovanni Lo Celso, as we said, probably not fit enough to start this one, but Jose has been very, very positive in what he's been saying about the Argentinian and his return from injury. He said he's a very talented player and he's a player with good competitive qualities. Of course, we missed him for a long time. I don't think he has 90 minutes in his legs, but he looked very confident in 3 sessions that he did with the team on Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday. So I don't feel any limitations with him. I think the team needs him because he's a quality player and he's also very competitive. I believe even for some players to have him there, he will help some, he will scare others. And I think we need that. There's 2 things I want to touch on with that, David. First of all, Jose says, I don't feel any limitations with him. So I suppose what Jose is saying there is he can probably start this game tomorrow. It's not a case of easing him back in because of the sessions he's had with that first team. But do you think it's a risk? A player with the injury history Lo Celso has had since joining Spurs, do you think it's a risk to maybe throw him right back into the deep end?
No, look, it's business end of the season. It's all hands on deck. Do you know what I mean? It's foot to the pump. It's that simple. We need our players out there. You know, Son's out injured. Højbjerg is suspended. Joe Rodon's not in contention. There's 3 players that aren't playing straight away. We need them back. It's as simple as that. Højbjerg and Ndombele are looking very tired as well lately. So, judging by what Mourinho said about, look, he doesn't have 90 minutes in it, for me, it looks like he could potentially start in there besides Sissoko and maybe come off in around 60, 65 minutes. That's what that potentially sounds like to me. Maybe potentially coming off for Harry Winks, maybe. But look, it's business end of the season. Every team that gets players back are going to throw them in as soon as possible. So look, it's up to Lo Celso now to stay fit. If he's not ready to go, he needs to step. He needs to have the balls to step up and say it. That's my opinion. Yeah. If he doesn't say it, then surely he's ready to go.
Yeah, I do agree with that one. Another point you're saying about maybe starting in that deeper role, going into the second bit, I want to pick out of what Jose said there. I believe even for some players to have him there, he will help some, he will scare others, and I think we need that. And you spoke about Ndombele looking tired on Sunday against Arsenal. I think one thing to look at is the decline in his form since he has moved back into that double pivot. And I was on your channel, David, on Monday, and I kind of spoke a bit about this. And look, for anyone who hasn't seen it, it was an absolutely incredible stream with myself, David, Richard Cracknell, and Bobby from Balfour TV. Go ahead and check that out. But I kind of pointed out that in the number 10 role, he can kind of be more risk taking, and that's kind of where we saw a lot of the quality from him. He's more of a flair player than an effective player. You know, he's of course very good in there. He does great chances. He does every now and then he scores a goal, but he's never going to be the most effective player in the pitch. And now that he's in a more deeper role, he has to be a lot more pragmatic, and he can't take those risks in terms of trying to nutmeg this player or trying to roulette around the other player, because he's missing an extra line of defense behind him. And we're starting to see more of the basic fundamentals of his game, and they're a bit more raw and a bit more flawed perhaps than we had first thought. And maybe that decline in form is something that Jose is saying, get Lo Celso in there to show that to Ndombele and Højbjerg that even though they've been the first choices in that double pivot in recent weeks, recent months, it's not their position for the season. There are other players who can come in and compete for that, and Sissoko and Winks haven't been good enough to compete for that. But Lo Celso, we know, has the quality, and we know has the tenacity and the fitness when he does get back to his best to be that man who can scare them in there. And again, I think we're just starting to see the depth of the squad as players are starting to come back from injury. I think is
just on Ndombele, Matty. Do you think the way he's playing stylish, the way his body language is, it's a bit kind of like, he looks disinterested, but he's not. Do you think that sort of body language also spells out being higher up the field in basically that centre attacking midfield role where he has that sort of freedom? Because that's what it seems like to me with him. I just don't think he has the fitness to be able to carry out what Jose Mourinho is asking him to do in there on a consistent basis throughout the 90 minutes. He does it in bursts. And this is the problem in that midfield at the minute, that, it's a hard one, because you see shades of him picking up the ball like Moussa Dembele used to do, players bouncing off him, beating players, getting us up the field. But it's too far. It's too few and far in between. But at the same time, you have Højbjerg in there to do the destroyer role. Ndombele can also do that, but is better on the ball than Sissoko and Winks. So he's having to also take away from his game to help the team. But I do think, just looking at his body language and stuff like that, he is much suited to being a bit further up where he can affect the game.
Yeah, and I think I agree with what you're saying there, and he is that kind of player where he could like mope around the pitch for 15-20 minutes, but he gets in the ball once and he has this incredible burst of pace. He'll take past 3 or 4 players and he puts someone in on goal. But I think this for me is a debate that ultimately will come down to whatever team we're playing against. If we're playing against a Fulham or a West Brom or a team that will sit behind the ball and allow us to control the tempo of the game in the hope of carrying out an 0-0 draw, I think then Ndombele is better in a deeper role, because he can pick up the ball deep and he can start to move from there and he can kind of start to orchestrate things. But if we're playing the likes of one of the top teams like United or City, or even the kind of mid-table teams that are will give us a game in the likes of Aston Villa and Leeds and things like that. I think then Ndombele is better in the more attacking roles, because if it does come down to a midfield battle of physicality and fitness, as much as I love Ndombele and as talented as he is, he's not going to be the man who'll win that battle. So I think Jose does start need to kind of looking at the teams we're playing against, and look, we know where Jose stands on this. It's almost as though he played Ndombele in a more advanced role to build up the fitness, so he could bring him back into that double pivot. Because as soon as he did bring him back there, he said, "This is what I want," and we're waiting for Lo Celso and Ali to fight it out for that number 10 role. Now, of course, Lucas at the moment seems to have kind of put his name in that position in centre attacking mid, but Ndombele, I think, is a debate where what his best position is. Will roar on till the day he leaves Tottenham Hotspur, because of the versatility that he does offer, and that he does have attributes that kind of will suit both positions there. Kevin Murray here saying, any word on Son? So Jose was asked about the injury. He said he was asked any idea how long Heung-min Son would be out for. He said, I don't know, but of course there's no chance for this game. Now another question asked him, will Son be going to Japan for a friendly with South Korea next week? And Jose said, if a player is injured and cannot play a friendly or an official game, it doesn't matter what match it is. So if we arrive next week and Sonny's injured and we can prove to the South Korean Football Association what's he going to do there? Nothing. So if a player cannot play for the club, he cannot play for the country. I think Davis just dropped out there for a second. But Jose's saying if he can't play for Spurs, there'll be no way he'll be playing for South Korea, which I think is good. And Spurs have been kind of vocal in the fact that they're not going to let players go on international break if it will affect their ability to play for the club, be that their fitness or any quarantining rules that they may be prone to. Wayne says, chuffed to have Lo Celso back. I'm hoping Jose starts Tanganga tomorrow and plays him more for the rest of the season. David, do you think Tanganga is in with a shout of getting in that team tomorrow?
Matty, it's sorry about that, by the way. My phone was trying to do an update. I couldn't hear what you were saying, so I had to go out and come back in. On Tanganga, Matty, it's a tough one, because we all sit here every week thinking now is his chance, give him a chance. But for whatever reason, it hasn't happened like that. And I don't know whether it's still because, look, that back injury he had, it was a pretty serious back injury. Is it going to be one of those where it maybe takes him a lot longer than what people expect to get over it, and that, look, behind the scenes, he's not fully up to it yet. He's not fully up to the pace and standard. But then again, he did play against Wickham and got hauled off, which I didn't understand either. Look, for me, I think he's a player that whether Mourinho stays or whether, after a little while Mourinho goes and gets someone in, that he is going to be of use to whoever is manager of this club. I think everything about the kid does scream Ledley King. What concerns me the most is that even when we were having them blunders, he still didn't get a chance at centre back, which I thought maybe he did deserve. I don't know what's going on there, Matty. I really don't know what's going on there. It's a strange one. I know Mourinho has said he sees him more as a right back, but then surely you would have seen him more as a right back when Aurier was out injured, rotating with Doherty. Even though Bart Doherty's being thrown Tanganga in there, it's an odd situation. I think it just could come down to, with the serious nature of the injury he did have with his back and stuff like that, and where it was. I think maybe he's just not fully up to it yet. I think that may be it. And maybe against Wickham, who knows? Maybe he felt a twinge in it and had to come off. We don't know. But look, if Tanganga played, I'd love it. I'm a big fan of Tanganga. Everyone knows.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. It's equally baffling for me, and I agree with you that if Jose sees him as a right back, he should have been in the right back position this season, because we've had such woes there. When Aurier gave away that penalty against Leicester, it was almost a month without really seeing him properly for a game, and that was a brilliant time to get Tanganga in there. And Tanganga has done so well in a few of the games that he's played, and two of the ones that show for me are the games against Liverpool and Manchester City. Liverpool is his Premier League debut, and he kept Sadio Mane quiet for 90 minutes, bar one time when he pulled in narrow. All of a sudden, that's not Tanganga's responsibility, and Mane scored. Yeah. So he's shown he does have the ability to compete with the best of the best in there. And, look, if you're going to give him a chance, I think that game against Arsenal on Sunday was the best chance to do that, because Matt Doherty, our weakest player in a right-back position against Arsenal, who loved to put the ball out the left and cross it into the box, I think was a recipe for disaster. And it was a defeat waiting to happen.
Do you think it could be a case that, look, Jose has looked at this in the practical terms, as in next season, that, look, there's no point of throwing the kid in with what's going on across that back four now and completely ruining his career and making him a part of the mistakes and highlighting his game. You know what I mean? And basically, Jose is trying to maybe salvage him from that, and maybe does see him going forward, but will introduce him next season after he can get a defender or two in and shore it up, rather than play him now and completely just throw him under the bus.
Yeah, I think that is a possibility. But if personally for me, if we're going to look at the mistakes and whether or not Tanganga is good to come into that, I'd say it's more a case of Jose not wanting an inexperienced player in there to kind of add to the mistakes, because, you know, they're going to be on the pitch, they're going to be learning from the likes of Dyer, Sanchez, Alderweireld. And maybe it's a similar reason why we haven't seen Joe Rodon as much as we had perhaps expected. Because Rodon is in a similar boat where he played his first game against Chelsea, and yes, he had a few poor moments, but he's raw, he's naive, he's still inexperienced. But for the most part, it was a very good performance from him. And it was more assured than we usually see from our bigger centre-backs. So I don't really understand why we're not seeing them, because there's no better chance to put them in a team than when your experienced and best defenders aren't playing well. And as well, it'll be that kind of the scare factor for those bigger players showing, yes, you know, you're more experienced, you cost us more money, you're probably better. But if you're not going to play to the best of your ability, then, you know, we're not going to keep you in this team. Brandon Sebastian here comes in with a $5 super chat. Brandon, thank you very, very much for that super chat. Everyone that does come in is massively appreciated. Anyone else, if you do want your super chat, your comment read out or your question answered, just hit that $sign beside the live chat button down at the bottom, and it'll be guaranteed to be read out. Brandon says, the majority of our team is uncomfortably average with a very weak, consistent winning mentality. God bless our rebuild. And that's something that, David, that I fully agree with Brandon there about. Why are we 18 months into the tenure of Jose Mourinho? Why do our players still have this weak mentality? Why can't we carry these games through? I always speak about it. When Spurs are in a position where we can capitalise, we completely fail. You know, Chelsea drew away to Leeds. Everton and West Ham both fell to defeats at the weekend. Brilliant opportunity for us. 5 wins in the bounce, coming up against a weak Arsenal side to really make a push for that top 4. But as soon as we had a bit of hope, the mentality just went.
Look, do you know what, Matty? This is actually something I've thought about long and hard over the last few days. And look, all I can put it down to is because it's happened over 2 managers, and I really don't want to have a go at the likes of the likes of Kane and Son, Alderweireld, Lloris. You know, you have Dyer there, still you have Ben Davies, Harry Winks, Lucas, Lamela. These are all core players from the core of Pochettino's squad. Now, the thing is, that's not going to change unless you rotate some of the weak mentalities out. Look, you can sit there. Kane is a born winner. Son is a born winner. I think Alderweireld is a born winner. As good as Hugo Lloris has been, I have my doubts about. Look, Dyer is not a born winner. Winks is not a born winner. Sissoko is not a born winner. Lamela is not a born winner. Lucas Moura is not a born winner. There's too many players that have bottled these games under both managers, and that's what it comes down to ultimately. We haven't rotated our squad enough. Jose can come in and put all the infrastructures in place to improve this, but ultimately, you also need the right personalities in your club to be able to improve it. And we have to give Jose more time in the transfer window. He's already brought it in with the likes of Højbjerg and, you know what I mean, who's come in regular on. He's brought a winner's mentality in with Bale. You know, things like that. But as well, you also need to give Jose the final say on the transfers coming in, because we can sit here and say, okay, yeah, he probably did have a hand in half of them. But then the other hand, we know that he had no say in it. Like Sir Joe Hart and Issues, I can guarantee you now there was no say in it. This is what's happening. This is what we can afford after we've given you some of the players you wanted. This is all that's left in the budget, and these are the areas you want to improve. This is what we're bringing in. So in order to change that, you have to get rid of some of these losers. And I don't really want to sit here and call them losers, but some of them are. Like Ben Davies, he's cost us many games under Poch and under Mourinho. Dyer the same, poor performances. Sanchez, you can even argue, is the same. The only consistent ones there for me that have been good has been Alderweireld, Son and Kane. Lloris dubious because he turns up on big occasions and then he doesn't. But, you know, even then you can even argue, does Kane turn up on the big occasions? You look at the Champions League final, you look at some of the finals and semi-finals that, you know what I mean? You look at the Arsenal game. So it's a mentality shift through players. And the only way you're going to change it, Matt, is the only way it's going to be changed is simply by bringing in the right players. Like, you spend cheap and you get in cheaper players that, you know, ultimately they're not as good. And the reason why you could say they're not as good is probably because they don't have the dedication or the mindset to be at that level. Instead of just spending that bit extra and getting the players that do want to improve every game, you see them consistently playing well every time, no matter what sort of team they're in. They're the sort of players you want to be getting in because they have the desire to be at the top level and win teams. Some of our players just don't. You can't tell me Davies sits there dreaming of picking up trophies, Dyer, Sanchez. No, they're just happy to be here. Harry Winks. They're just happy to be here, and that's it. And that's the problem. What would you make on it? I'd be actually very interested to hear your thoughts on it, to be honest, as well.
Yeah, on the point of transfers, I think Daniel Levy has gotten away with a lot for so long because, with Mauricio Pochettino, we kind of always knew he was never in charge of transfers, and I think he was always going to be a yes man in public for Daniel Levy. Like, if you look at that year where we almost signed Jack Grealish and eventually didn't sign anyone throughout that summer transfer window, Pochettino quite often said, I don't want to sign a player for the sake of it. I want to buy the player that is absolutely perfect to this situation that we're in. And I kind of listened to that, and I think looking at the players that he signed early on in his tenure at the club, like I think the likes of Clinton and G, I do not believe for a second that the manager with a coaching staff and a scouting network that identified some of the players that came through under Pochettino. I'm looking mainly at Dele Alli and looked at Clinton and G and thought, he's a player who can win us trophies. He's a player who can bring us to that next level. And he's the first name that's coming to my head. He's not the only one in there, but I think now under Jose Mourinho, it's a very similar situation that he handpicks players. Like, he'll have a scout network out in Portugal, where we know he has a lot of connections all across Europe, and he will handpick these players. Now, if you get those players, he will win you trophies, and there's no two ways about that. But if you don't get the players, you might as well not buy anyone instead of going out and buying someone who's like that. And I think that's the mistake Daniel Levy may be making here, because look, first of all, we know Jose Mourinho's his title is head coach, it's not manager. He's not in charge of transfers. But I think Daniel Levy might be looking at this and saying, well, I could go out and get these players that Jose wants, that Jose needs to win the trophies. I could that's one option. I can't afford it. Then he's left with two options. Do I not buy the players? Because if we don't get those players, we're not going to win.
Mourinho. You just don't go down that avenue whatsoever.
Yeah, but that's where I think he's making his mistake, and he's going down the middle route. He's saying, we'll get a player like that. So people think I'm trying to buy these players for Jose. I'm getting players like the ones he wants so he can't complain. And all of a sudden I'm saving a bit of money, but nothing's my fault. And that's for me the biggest mistake that he is making. And it's just typical Daniel Levy at this stage. And I don't know when that will ever change, if it will ever change. And that's the biggest concern for a Spurs fan right now, because if we come out of this time under Jose Mourinho without having won something, and I'm not talking about having won a Carabao Cup, unless we win a big trophy under Jose Mourinho, none of this is worth it. And then people start to question, well, where do Spurs go from here? Because at least on Pochettino left, we felt there was the basis, a platform for a project to move forward and start to build this club and bring it on to the next level. Whereas once you bring in Jose Mourinho, I think you sacrifice that long-term vision for the possibility of short-term success. And all of a sudden, the success isn't there either. And you've just gotten rid of everything. And you might as well not have had Pochettino with the club, because he didn't win anything. He got us a Champions League final. Go ahead. At
the same time, Matty, do you think maybe we could be looking at it wrong? And maybe we should be looking at it, because when Mourinho went into United, he said he wanted to make it a dynasty. He wanted to make it a long-term plan, a long-term vision, providing the board backed him and went with his ideas. Ultimately, that didn't happen. You could probably say Paul Pogba won. Mm-hmm. But how do we not know that he's looking at Tottenham and saying that I can build my reign like the great Ferguson, like that other scum manager? You know what I mean? I can build my reign and my dynasty at Tottenham Hotspur and take them from this level of competing but not really competing because you never get over the line to being serial competitors. You know what I mean? Like, I get you. That could be another way of looking at it. And for all we know, like, Daniel Levy could be looking at it in that sort of, like, we don't know what discussions they had ongoing behind the door. Like, you can look at his track record and you can say it's not going to happen. I can agree with that too. But you don't know. He might just be looking at this as building a dynasty and leaving his legacy on the game.
Yeah, that is a possibility. I personally wouldn't think it is like that, but with the way football's going nowadays, you never know what's going to happen. But I think there's obviously a split among the fan base, Jose in and Jose out, and then those toxic idiots who want us to lose, so Jose will be sacked. I don't count them as fans. The one thing we all have in common, the Jose in fans, the Jose out fans, and Jose, is we want Spurs to succeed. Yeah. And that's what I think we need to remember. And look, you can support the manager, you can not support him, you can back him, you can want him out, but at the end of the day, he wants the best of what we want. So why not back him while he's at the club? And then when he goes, you can say, well, I kind of agree with that decision, but while he's at the club, back him. And look, that's a debate for another day. I think we're kind of getting a bit sidetracked. But look, a super chat here from Jordan coming up to £5. Jordan, you're absolutely incredible. I know you're always turning those super chats. You're a member of the channel as well. You are massively appreciated. Says, agree with David. Losers may sound derogatory, but it's the truth. And until these players with a weak attitude are shifted, we will always falter. And look, I fully agree with you on that one. Again, it comes down to the investment. It's the board. It's our activity in the transfer market, which again is a debate for another day. But Jordan, fully agree with you there. And thank you very much for that super chat. Now, look, as I said, if I can find my notes here, I do want to touch on the situation with the Dinamo Zagreb manager. Now, Zoran Mamic, he was on the touchline for Zagreb last week. He was managing his team as though it was any other day. But little did we know, I'm sure Zagreb knew about it. I'm sure their fans knew about it.
I bet you wish he stayed in London.
Yeah, he probably wish he hadn't gone back to Croatia, because he is going to prison. And it's an absolutely bizarre story, because it's something about tax evasion through siphoning money out of transfers. Now, they've been charged with tax evasion totaling to 1.37 million pounds for siphoning off 13.12 million pounds from transfers of players from Dinamo. Now, a big part of that is actually when Spurs bought Luka Modric from Zagreb back in, I think it was 2008. But look, this has been in court for a long time. His brother as well, Zdravko Mamic, the chief executive of the club, has also been sentenced to prison. But essentially what has happened is... Is he? Oh, it's a crazy story.
Serbia, yeah.
I heard when this initially started, they were in an away European game, and as soon as they crossed the border back into Croatia, they were caught and they were taken into custody, whatever. They were sentenced to prison a few years back. They appealed it and all that, and Mamic has had his sentence reduced from 4 years and 11 months down to 4 years and 8 months. So it's almost as though nothing has happened, but it's a crazy story. It's come out in the last couple of days. Zoran Mamic then immediately resigned from his role as manager at Dinamo Zagreb, and they have appointed a new manager. It's their former player, Damir Kazernar. So they will have a manager in place for this game, but David, it can't really be helpful for this team in the preparation for this game that their manager is going to prison. Surely it's going to have a bit of a negative effect on that squad. Yeah,
of course it is. Look, you're always going to have these other Spurs fans who will say that, they're going to use this as motivation. Look at the Sheffield United situation. It's going to mimic exactly that. Chris Wilder goes to get pumped. You cannot tell me these players are like, and this manager, what the manager's going to come in and say exactly play the exact way he's been playing. You know what I mean? But ultimately, what did they offer us at White Hart Lane? Absolutely nothing. Look, they're going to be deflated. There's going to be a lot of speculation around the club. They're going to be tired as well, because make no mistake about it, all these players are going to have people trying to get little bits of information off them about what's going on with the court case, what's going on at the club, and everything else. So, it's just one big headache. And no, it's definitely not going to be helpful. It is helpful, because it's helpful for Tottenham Hotspur, of course. It gives them a complete different thing to focus on before the game, which is brilliant. So, it's helpful for us.
Yeah, and look, as Jordan said there in the live chat, it is kind of funny. I mean, we're not going to complain about this, because it is a bit of a setback for the opposition that we're playing. But look, it's a bizarre thing that I did want to touch on, because it's a crazy situation. And someone said there in the comments as well, only in a Spurs season would you see your opposition manager go to prison for money laundering and tax evasion. But look, we're Spurs, we almost have to be used to things like this. You got Will Stewart coming in with a $10 super chat. Will, again, another person who is absolutely incredible. The super chats, the memberships, the support on the channels, not just mine, on all the Spurs channels. Will, you are massively appreciated. And I genuinely do mean that. Will says, I've never been in love with Jose like I was Poch, but I will never say Jose out to the likes of Davis, Dyer, Doherty, Winks, Sissoko, Lamela, and more are upgraded. I want one trophy, the league. And I fully agree with you on that one, Will. And some people often point out, and again, it is, as it always is from Will, unless he's talking about Lamela. I saw a comment in there a second ago saying, you forget Jose said he had the perfect squad and he came to Spurs. He was always going to say that. He was asked about his squad. He wasn't going to say, it's not good enough, I'm going to sell this guy, this guy, this guy. He's going to say the squad is what he wants, but maybe I'll make my own changes. He has to say that. He doesn't want to fall out with the squad before he even gets in there, and with the fans as well. So I would kind of not look too much into the comments he made in his first time at the club, but I agree with Will. There's deadwood in that squad that just is not good enough there, and no manager is going to be successful with them. And that's my point in this defence always as well. No manager is going to win trophies with the defence that is in place here, apart from maybe Jose Mourinho. And that's what we need to wait for and see how that pans out for the rest of the season.
To that though, Matty. It's like they almost expected Jose Mourinho to sit there and say, wait, hang on. Mr. Anonymous, he's going to be sold. Moon Boots, Sanchez, they're going to be gone. The Irish Roberto Carlos, not good enough. Even I'm going to ship him on, even though I know they're going to give him to me. You know what I mean? Moussa Sissoko trained. Look, the guy can't control a ball. He can't kick a ball. He's just good at destroying people. Probably should be playing rugby, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Is that what they expected him to do before he even walked into the club? Because then if he'd done that, straight away they're going to say, oh, see, he's already coming in, he's doing his toxic thing. You know, the guy just can't win sometimes. People have to look through some of these comments, like even after games, you know, when he comes out and like we're all sitting like, you know, some people are sitting there and be like, what is he talking about? But you have to sit there and realize, like, when these mistakes that keep happening, these individual errors, if he comes out and slates them in the press, it's just going to happen a lot more and they're just not going to play for him. So he has to defend him. It's that simple. So just don't be reading into too much what he says, because with Mourinho, everyone knows he's the type of person, he says one thing, but you can guarantee it's calculated and he completely means another. Or he has another vision, you can guarantee it. He's not going to sit there and come out and tell everybody his vision. It's stupid.
Absolutely. One thing you can trust from Jose Mourinho is that you can't trust him, and it's a bizarre thing, but look, it's the truth, I suppose. It's the truth with a manager like Jose. We've seen it all the way throughout his career. But look, David, one thing I do want to touch on before we do wrap it up very shortly is how the Derby defeat on Sunday is going to affect this game here. Lamela posted on Instagram saying that football is about revenge and there's always the next match to make up for it. And he was speaking basically about how he has such a desire to get the victory tomorrow night. Would you be worried there could be some sort of hangover from that Derby defeat, or do you think it's a case of going out and putting things right and trying to get that victory tomorrow night?
Well, to be honest with you, if I was these players, just forget about manager and everything else, but in the eyes of the fans, they've no option but to go out there and put on a display tomorrow and against Villa Sunday. No option but to do both. If they go out there tomorrow and there's a hangover, you know, there's already questions about their mentality and about them being winners, so it's not really going to help them. But look, it's all good coming out and saying, oh, you know, let's fight for the badge and let's be passionate and, you know, I'm angry. Well, fucking get angry on the pitch when the North London Derby is there. That's the time to be angry, not in a Twitter post 3 days after the game. Or I'm going to go out against Dinamo and be angry. I told everyone before last game, Dinamo are crap. You know, so
you told me, to be fair.
That's not even a dig at you, Matty.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But, you know, just, like, do it when the time matters. Not against Dynamo, not against Colchester or against Brentford or Marine. Not them sort of games. Do it in the games where it actually matters. And deliver in the big games where it means we win things, we go on and succeed. Not against little Dynamo when their manager is going to prison and he's not there anymore and they've brought in a draft. Do you know what I mean? Do it when it matters. Jesus Christ. Like, in all honesty, that's actually, the more I get wound up about it, the more embarrassing it is for him. You know, just do it when it matters. Not talking on Twitter and social media and on Sky Sports and playing all these little friendly games with Arsenal players and, you know, go out to the pitch and treat it like it's war. Don't be coming out telling me actions speak louder than words. Show me in actions.
Absolutely. And look, a status was that backs up what you're saying there is, I think I said it the other night in your channel as well, that since Spurs beat Arsenal to go top of the league in December, we've played 8 teams in the top half of the table and we've lost all 8 of those games. And it just gets worse and worse for Spurs. I have
an issue with that stat though, Matty.
Oh, go ahead.
Right, I love stats. And to be honest with you, you got me into liking stats. But with that stat, what it doesn't highlight is the injuries we've had throughout that period, which take a toll on the squad. The amount of games we've played more games than most clubs around Europe, if not the whole of Europe. So that tiredness comes into it. And them big top 6 teams say, it's very hard to do the double on them home and away. Now, we already bet most of them once. So, like, in theory, that's a Jose out stat. That's what I call that. I don't like it. I call it the Jose out stat because it works in their favour. But it doesn't show some of the things that have gone on that have calculated to create that stat, if you get me.
Yeah, no, I do get you. And that is it. You know, stats don't always tell the full story. They tell part of it, but they're never going to, like, you know, you could say that stat about Eric Lamela hasn't completed a pass on his right foot all season. That mightn't tell you he's completed more passes than anybody else in his left foot this season. You know, every stat can be can be twisted and used in a certain discussion in a certain way to suit the narrative of whoever is saying it. But for me, that was just a concerning stat with regards to our record against those bigger teams.
It would be concerning as well. Yeah, obviously, because they're the teams you need to be beaten to win things.
Exactly. They're the teams you need to beat to be on their level, I suppose, and it's something we've struggled with in the latest kind of parts of the season. Yassine Shakur asks here, if for some reason we get knocked out, do we sack Jose? Personally, no. I think if we are going to sack Jose, I don't want us to. I know a lot of fans do want to, but even if we are going to wait till after the Manchester City game, because over 90 minutes in a cup final, who is a better man to have in your dugout than Jose Mourinho? You may argue it's Pep Guardiola. That's not possible. He's going to move the other team. But there's no manager out there who's available right now who I think has a better chance of winning that game for us than Jose Mourinho. And look, having said that, I still don't think we are going to win it. I mean, come the day of the final, I'll be telling you we're going to win 6-0. But at the moment, looking at that in a realistic,
we all do it now.
Yeah. What do you make of this, David? Would you sack Jose if Zagreb knocks out tomorrow?
Look, my biggest fear about sacking Jose is, with the noises Kane was making before Jose came in, all of a sudden they've stopped about maybe potentially, if he doesn't see Tottenham going in the right direction, that he will leave. Son's contract situation. Alderweireld only signed a new contract because he always wanted to work with Jose Mourinho, and Jose Mourinho as the coach. My worry is if we do sack him, are you also in effect sacking Kane and Son? Because are they going to stay? Like, Kane's at the back end of his career. He's given so much to the club. He's done his best to bring us to the point of winning trophies. But he hasn't been helped by the transfers. He hasn't been helped by Daniel Levy. He hasn't been helped. He hasn't been helped by the club, basically. Okay, the club gave him his opportunity, but he's repaid that tenfold. He's completely alone with his presence up front, took us to a new level of threat, which in essence takes us to a new level. So, if you sack Jose, are you in effect getting rid of Kane and Son as well? Because I firmly believe they stayed for this rebuild because Jose was coming in and potentially they looked at and said trophies. Board will bring in the right players, big man's here now, we're going to go and win trophies. Has it happened to the way we like it? No, there are circumstances, obviously, pandemic, things like that. But the owners were for $4 billion. He has some money there to throw a couple of million for Jose to go and spend the players and bring in and create a dynasty. So my biggest fear is sacking Jose is are you going to lose Son and Kane as well? And there is a massive possibility that's going to happen. If you're thinking from a player's eyes, okay, they sack Jose, they might hang around to see who the new manager is. But if you bring in Nagelsmann, if you're Kane at 28 and you see the way he has his teams running around, are you going to look at that and say, don't fancy doing that again? I already done it for Poch. There's all these things to take into account.
Yeah, and I think even then, on the point of if we do bring in Nagelsmann, where would Kane, what would Kane think about that? And if we bring Nagelsmann in, it's going to be a project. It's going to be a long-term build. Yeah. And Kane, does he have the time to stick around for something like that before he starts kind of getting return on his efforts in terms of medals and trophies? I'm not sure that is the case. But look, again, that is definitely a debate for another day. I think, David, me and you could talk about Spurs all day, every day. Yeah. A few things here. Yassine says, let's say we don't win Europe, but only League Cup and finish top 6. Do you think Kane would stay for that? Look, we'll have to wait and see about that one. And a bit of a debate there about why people want Jose sacked. But look, guys, this went on a lot longer than I thought it was going to. And David, I apologise because I told you this would only be 20 minutes.
No, I'm around. I'm not up to anything. I have my own show to do in a while anyway. So
absolutely love that. And look, speaking of shows David has done, the latest edition of Tell Me Your Spurs Story with Abby Summers was an absolutely fantastic watch. And I've been on that before, but I can honestly say this was the best edition of it so far. It really was a terrific show. I'm going to drop a link for that in the live chat, because I highly recommend everybody who's here to go and check that out. Before you do go and check that out, make sure to drop a like in the stream, drop subscribe in the channel if you haven't already. We're going to have live watch-alongs, a live watch-along for the Zagreb game tomorrow. We're going to have a pre-recorded edition of the Tottenham Fanboys podcast on Friday, because I am working Friday evening, so I can't live stream it. And we're going to have a whole lot of content on Sunday for the massive Premier League game against Aston Villa, culminating with that watch-along kick-off late on Sunday evening for that. So please do head over and check that out on David's channel. Do you want to give us a bit of an insight into it, David, before people head over?
Yeah, 100%. Look, the Tell Me Your Spurs Story is just, it's a concept basically where, you share your memories throughout your whole time supporting the club. And the one with Abby, I thoroughly enjoyed doing. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Look, same as yours, Matty. I put it on par with that, and the one with We Are Tottenham TV as well. Really enjoyed doing all of them. And Marcelo as well, of course. But yeah, no, look, I have a preview coming up at 9 o'clock with Stelios from Tottenham away and Mr. Cracknell doing the preview at 9 o'clock. And yeah, look, I'll be doing a review. I'm not sure whether I'm going to be doing that Thursday or Friday yet. I'm not sure. And then, of course, a preview and a review for the Villa game. And I will also be getting in a fan call-in show before the weekends. And basically how that works is is I'm not going to do it after games. I want to do one a week where basically you come on and you tell me what you want to talk about. So you dictate the way the show goes. I just want to try and do it a bit different. So that's what I have coming up. But no, thank you, Matty. And everyone, of course, make sure you get over and you like and subscribe to my channel as well. That would be greatly beneficial. But, you know, the dedication that Matty has done there, basically pre-recording the podcast to put it out at the same time for all you guys, big him up for that. You know, fair play to him. That shows his dedication.
So I think I cut out there my connection there for a second. David, thank you very much. Am I back?
Yeah,
thank you very much for those kind words, David. I was going to say, for that podcast on Friday, we will have an Aston Villa fan on as well. I recorded for his podcast a while ago. Incredible insight and content for him. So please do check out that podcast. Like I said, watch alongs, all that stuff. We have a super chat here from Robsta coming into £10. Says, love the content, lads. You appreciate you keep me entertained. Have a beer on me. Come on, you Spurs. Robsta, thank you very, very much for that. And a happy St. Patrick's Day to you and as well to everybody watching from two happy Irish Yids sitting over here. Look, we are going to wrap it up there. Make sure to head over to David's preview on his channel at 9 o'clock with two fantastic guests. You can be sure you'll find me in the live chat over there as well. So please do head over and support an absolutely incredible Spurs content creator, one that I have no shame in saying is much better than me at what he does on this platform. But please head over and subscribe there. Like I said, David, let's not come on, you know the truth. That link, as I said again in the live chat there, go over and show some support to everyone who's tuned in over the last 45 or so minutes. There's been over 500 of you. Everyone who smashed that like button for the super chats, for the new subscribers, everyone who's tuned in. I do always mean it when I say I massively appreciate that. Hopefully we'll be back in the next couple of days with a very, very happy smile on our faces, given we'll be in the last 16 of the Europa League. Or is it last 8? Quarterfinal.
Yeah,
last
we'll be in the quarterfinals if we win this. I just want to say, you Matty Hayes followers, you got extra content out of us today. We weren't even planning to talk about some of them things. You got extra out of us today.
Always know how to drag it out of us. But look, yes, thank you to everybody. Again, make sure to head over to David's channel, and as always, to every single one of you, thanks so much for watching.
Come on.